Vita?
This weekend.
You're fine. I got it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. We all. Yeah. Peter. Are you Mike Lasso? Yeah. Yeah, Andy Jackson. Well, I actually. People own the last. But you are.
Sure.
Years ago.
I think we'll be recording on.
Yeah, we're doing a Zoom recording, but we'll be online.
So you do, if you were.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can hear.
The first thing is gonna be in room together, so. Right.
I step on my toes. What the, right? Something I can do. This one, it's already going.
Yeah.
We are, just let me know when you want it on the ring.
Anyone else, you guys waiting on anybody else?
I think we've got.
We'll wait until now, get started.
What is your,
Um,
the folder that's in one on? You don't have that.
I don't.
is there anything you all are expecting to share, like via screen or anything?
We didn't bring it.
Okay,
Same.
same, you guys good? Okay, I think we're good for that screen.
So we're just recording it?
Yeah, sure.
If needed, you can log into the Zoom and you can share from your computer if needed. Then we can look it up in the TV if we need to share that.
So unfortunately, we're gonna have to move up to here. Because the public and the people in the back will not be able to hear all the council's comments and everybody talking, because we don't have any microphone system. So in order for us to do this, we need to do it at council positions.
Okay.
So that we can use the microphones and the speakers, people can hear. They won't be able to hear anybody talking. We have to get into our regular positions, we have to swap that up.
We can, is it line two tables up?
Yeah.
Yes. Rick Rondon, engineering project.
You gotta talk right into the mic if you can't hear.
Rick Rondon, mechanical engineering project. Tyler Barr from Oak Point. I'm Peter McGovern, architect with Oak Point.
Mike Mead, Charles Brothers.
Adam Charters, Charters Brothers. Brad Charters, Charters Brothers.
Jennifer Goodell, Assistant Town Manager at South Berwick.
Tim Beller, changing the batteries, Town Manager.
Joe Martin.
Thank you. So we're officially recording, we're on, great, okay. Thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. I wanted to pull all parties together because we can hear all the beeping going on downstairs regarding the construction of this building. What are we waiting on?
Video.
Oh, okay, thank you. Can we just hit the video button? We just gotta.
Is this thing? Back in business.
Yeah.
Okay. There it goes. All right, I'm gonna repeat myself a little bit. Thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. We've asked all of you together this afternoon for an update on the town hall renovation project that's happening as we speak. We can hear all the beeping downstairs. And just wanted to take an opportunity to pull everyone together and kind of get a project status update from each party. So we have Dovetail, Oak Point, as well as Charters Brothers here. Would love, and then we'll move to having an opportunity for the council to ask any questions. We'll keep this fairly informal, so for council, if you have questions for a particular group, just let me know and we can take those. And then I think it would be great for us to kind of have a what's working, what's not working kind of moment about this working group, I guess. And the goal here is hopefully that we can walk away from this meeting with a clear path forward that's on schedule and as close to on budget as we can get. Anyone have any questions about what we're here to do or anything like that?
I just want one point of clarification. I think part of the background behind calling this meeting was the change request 3, which was is in discussions at your OAC meetings. I understand we've talked about them at our town meetings with Dovetail, and I think my understanding is that there's a potential that our contractor is looking for additional compensation related to the work associated with that. Is that accurate?
It's been submitted as a change request to the owner, yes.
Okay, so sort of going through the not so much the details of that, but what work is all contained in that, and so up to the council, who is the only authority able from the town side to sign off on that, has a good understanding.
Thank you. I think we'll start with Dovetail, if that works. You guys can just kind of let us know from your perspective where things are at, and then we'll pivot to Charters Brothers and Oak Point. And if anyone has questions, well, Dovetail's for that same question.
Hello, Forrest Butler from Dovetail Consulting once again. Thanks for everyone being here. I think we all have a common goal for this project to stay on track and on budget. And yeah, so starting off, I just want to say that currently the project is behind the baseline schedule. As far as phase one, we're approximately 7 weeks behind schedule. And with phase 2, we're approximately 10 weeks behind schedule. This is according to master schedule received on March 27th. We understand that Charters Brothers has some ideas to expedite the schedule. But we are aware that also that some delays have been caused by unforeseen conditions. Yeah, we'll let Charters Brothers speak to the specifics of several of those, but from an owner's side, I know that we need to finalize the direction on under slab work on the first floor and continue expedited review of critical submittals. We also need to finalize the town's temporary occupancy plan for the next phase and continue closer view of pending Charter Brothers changes, allowances and contingency items before they're converted into contractual changes. So that's where I am. I'll let Andy take it over now.
Yeah, so just, that's from the perspective of schedule and overall coordination. From the perspective of budget, as everybody knows, I think, or just to restate, the project was originally conceived with 7.351 million of funding sources. The Charter Brothers contract and the contract with Oak Point, sort of oversubscribed that amount by about $122,000. The Charter Brothers has been holding in their schedule values contingencies that add up to $658,000. And since the start of the project, as everybody knows, the town has unlocked another $750,000 of contingency funding. So if you add the Charter Brothers contingency with the owner's contingency, those add up to about 1.4 million that were sort of available to cover as a cushion at the start of construction. Since then, Charter Brothers has been going through buyouts. They've had a few relatively minor change orders that they're absorbing with their contingency. The net of those is actually increasing the contingency because we've unlocked some of the solar money and put it back into the contingency. Outside of Charter Brothers, you've hired Dovetail. We've also retained third-party testing agencies. We're vetting HVAC commissioning and MEP commissioning right now. We've got to hire a moving company. There's a bunch of other kind of non-construction work going on that have incurred several $100,000 of costs. There's change order 3, which is right now the sticker price is $143,000. So if you add up all of the draws on the contingency versus the 1.4 million where we started, from what I can tell, there's about $854,000 left over as an uncalled for cushion right now, which is about 12% of the construction schedule values. So just my opinion, that's not a great position to be in because we still have a lot of demo to go. We haven't even touched the site work, haven't touched the second or third floor, still doing buyouts. But we'll just leave it at that for now. And I guess there's a lot more detail behind everything we said, but we'll leave it there for now.
Thank you. I think any questions anyone has for Dovetail at this point from the whole group? Okay, we'll pivot to Charter Brothers.
You okay? Mike Bean, Charter Brothers. Dovetail alludes to the schedule being behind our baseline. It is actually focused on the 10-week overall that Forrest mentioned. I just wanted to, run through a couple of things for the benefit of the council as to we're influencing factors in that. So starting.
Can you turn the microphone on?
It is on.
A little closer.
I'm just not good at this. How's that?
That's
Much better.
All right. So our start date on paper on the baseline schedule was 11/18. 11/18 was the mobilization date, and just for a little context, that was a moving target throughout the fall as we tried to work through the budget challenges that we were experiencing as a team. We were, as a team, collectively pressing to get started. I do want to say there was a little bit of administrative friction out of the gates. We definitely did not get mobilized on the 18th, and we were working throughout the first several weeks. There was key subcontracts in place, get recommendations to award to those key trades signed. So the net of that was probably 3 to 4 weeks right out of the gate with that friction. Beyond that,
Mike, sorry, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
There's just a question regarding the administrative kind of friction.
Yeah.
That was kind of the moment where we were kind of dealing with this overage and whether we were gonna come back to the town and ask for more money. Is that what you're referring to? Or
Yeah, so 11/18 start date, but then we had 11/25, we were asked to come in and present to the council. There was a vote on 12/9, I believe it was, for the owner's contingency. We were certainly trying to get traction as a team there, but that was probably about 3 to 4 weeks lost right out of the gate. A couple of other things in that first month and a half, that we were battling, the fire alarm system in the building, what we came to find out was very inadequate. We have to generate an NFPA 241 plan, which is basically fire protection during construction, occupied building. We're gonna be doing construction activities. We make sure we have a plan in place that the fire marshal blesses, that we're gonna keep everybody safe, and keep the building safe while we're under construction. The bones of that plan for us was to replace the temporary smoke detectors with temporary heat detectors, which don't, will avoid nuisance trips that for construction dust and debris. We found out, after couple weeks of investigation, review with the monitoring company, the fire marshal, the fire department, that the panel, had been in rough shape before, and was not gonna be adequate to support that plan. So, part of our plan to recover that was to expedite the permanent fire alarm panel, get that installed in its permanent location, and then tie in our heat detector systems on all floors, which wasn't originally the plan, but on all floors, to facilitate getting started. And we simply couldn't start demo without that plan in place, and we'd be unsafe to do so. Moving beyond that, once we completed a large part of the demo throughout the first floor, we saw a lot of surfaces that had suspect coatings on it. We did our due diligence, asked for some additional hazmat testing, received that hazmat testing through RPF, and identified that it had elevated levels of lead throughout. So it was not unknown that lead was in the building, but the concentrations in the areas where we knew we had to do cutting and coring specific tasks, we needed to pause necessarily. Brought in a third-party safety consultant to do some training to make sure everybody on staff working in the buildings adequately trained to operate, and made sure that the demo sub had lead safe and practices of construction plan in place that was reviewed and approved. So that probably 9 days or so on the NFPA 241 plan, about 8 days on the hazmat testing. The fire protection was a little bit of a challenge. Probably lost 5 to 10 days here trying to understand precisely what we could and couldn't do with the existing fire protection on the first floor. Plans call for it ultimately to be demolished, but we needed to keep it in place per order of the state fire marshal throughout construction. His interpretation of the codes that couldn't go away as early in the schedule as we had anticipated. Had to switch gears a little bit on the demo, make sure we could demo surfaces around that system safely without setting it off. We were able to do so, but we did lose some time there. So those were the major ones in the first update that we issued in February. The last 4 weeks have been additionally challenging. We lost another 4 weeks to the underslab bearing condition issue. We have put mitigation efforts in place to try to hold firm on that overall 10-week delay. Remains to be seen if those will play out precisely the way we hope, but long story short, we started cutting the slabs out on the first floor, and the slab was falling into the trench, clearly indicating that there was voids beneath that slab that we needed to contend with. So spent a few weeks with Oak Point generating some solutions to the problem, and now we're working on implementing those as of this week. And in an effort to try to mitigate that, we've moved up several activities which would otherwise not take place until after we were done with the underslab work and the slab work. We started framing, you can see down there, which is kind of ahead of schedule. We started MEP rough overhead to the extent that we can, and now in wall to the extent that we can once we have walls framed. And we're hoping to kind of mitigate those issues, but we are still holding firm overall. The update that we issued last week to dovetail the 10-week delay. And then if I could speak just briefly on CR number 3, addendum number 1. We received that in late December. We communicated that to the mechanical and plumbing subcontractor. Received detailed pricing from them on that. We enlisted the help of Oak Point to sort of help us validate or not the changes that were outlined there. We received a round of thorough comments from those folks, from Peter and the team and Rick. Went back to Palmer and Sicard. There was further detail provided by Palmer and Sicard, excruciating, extensive detail. Actually, we took that back to Oak Point and reviewed it a second time. And it was at that point, my judgment, we needed to get that in front of the town. We were trying our hardest as a team to try to, whittle that down, keep it as low as possible, but it was clear to me that, there was a lot of valid cost in there, and we needed to get in front of the town for consideration, so, we submitted that most recently, but we do, continue having discussions as late as yesterday with the point about how we can mitigate that.
Okay, so just clarifying for the full circle as well, so you were able to get our new fire system in place to be able to do the construction?
Partially, the new panel is in place.
Okay, perfect, so we have that, alright.
And that was something that would have been installed much later in the project, but we just accelerated it.
Correct.
That's right.
And then the addendum, you were kind of going into like the HVAC that you all brought up.
It is.
The price for
It's partially HVAC and plumbing as well.
it. Okay, and then. So with that, so based on the comments you're like saying, it's not like the pricing that was suggested is out of place, the pricing makes sense.
There's a lot of valid cost, yeah, everything that's, I mean, there, with a few exceptions that, again, we continue to discuss amongst ourselves, it's largely valid, yes.
Can you kind of just walk through what we originally kind of had the pricing at and what it's being suggested to?
Not sure I understand your question.
So we're gonna be at, like, we need additional funding for the HVAC, is that?
I think you're looking to like understand the evolution of the HVAC.
Yeah.
Kind of, can you just kind of give us a high level of how HVAC has evolved this project, just to brief
Yeah,
everyone?
I think probably Oak Point is better positioned
Okay.
to provide that discussion.
With that, does anyone have any?
The change request 3 is, HVAC and plumbing. I think, was there another discipline in that, or is it trade, or is that it?
That's all.
So when we're talking here, I just wanna make sure, they'll probably talk about it, HVAC and plumbing versus, let's be talk about it separately, but, it's one subcontractor for both of them.
Yep.
That's what I came in as. One.
So is the solar now totally off the table, or are we still going solar, or, I mean, maybe where do we go with that? So, I mean, I know we applied for a grant, we did not, for whatever reason, did not get it. I don't know if there's an opportunity to reapply, which would fit the time frame that we have, and I don't know enough about this to know whether that impacts what we're doing with HVAC or any of the rest of the project, actually.
Yeah, there is an opportunity to reapply next year, I believe, but that's gonna be near the end of construction, so for the time being, we don't have solar in the scope. What we've asked Charter Brothers to do is to make sure that all the infrastructure is ready, and mostly in terms of conduits and connections, that can be made easily later. The roof work that has to be done for other reasons will cover the future solar loads regardless. So we already own all that, and then we just said, we'll keep the door open for solar in the future if that grant comes along.
We can reapply for the grant June 4th,
June 4th.
and it would be funded before the end of the calendar year.
But, in one of our, meetings with Dovetail, we decided that for the time being, since that grant didn't go through, and for the sake of the finances on the project, that was what Andy mentioned, related to moving that 75,000, so it got from an allowance or some cost code into the contingency. So that's why it would sort of appear as though the contingency is fatter than it was at the beginning of the contract. Because that money is now in that bucket, so to speak, instead of for a particular scope.
I know one other thing, that we had discussed with the owner team about, kind of modifying the project from a landscaping perspective out front. That also been discussed by the larger group in terms of, we had discussed making, kind of scrapping a lot of the landscaping out front and just doing a couple minor sidewalk. I just don't know where the status is on that.
So,
Forrest has presented the plan to
Okay.
us.
You're in the-
So we're aware of it, but I think that it's a, April 14th. Town
Yes.
council vote to see if,
To
go
officially
forward with
report
that.
that. Okay, thank
So
you.
that's what it is.
just for your information, Mallory, at
Yeah.
the last meeting, we got in the meeting notes, Dovetail brought forward what the estimated deduct would be to
Okay,
remove that. And we sort of decided we're gonna sit on it for right now as we get through this other
Okay.
stuff, since it's not critical path to begin with.
Sounds good, thank you. Anyone else have any other Charter Brothers, you guys got anything else, any other questions at this point? For that one?
I do have some comments, but I can wait till later, related to the delay. The estimated delay, and stuff like that.
Okay. Oak Point, you guys wanna go next?
Sure, so I'm gonna step back from the specifics we're talking about, and just talk about where we are. Actual, what's going on in the building, and what we do with Oak Point, working with Dovetail and Charter Brothers. So the project, Mike touched on, we're at phase one demolition stage right now. All the noise you're hearing, there was existing walls coming down, existing ceilings that needed to come down, existing electrical and mechanical systems that were coming down. And that's mostly been done. They're sort of at the slab now, like Mike touched on, the unforeseen beneath the concrete there was kind of mush, unsuitable fill. So anywhere that we've taken out, we have to take that soil out and bring in new soil packaging. One important critical areas that didn't have originally to be removed was the vault area. But taking out the existing flooring from there, we found that the slab's all raised up and cracked and uneven, and there's the vault, that's where the vault is going, and there's a need for some high density storage in there, so we really want a level floor and a secure slab. So that is gonna be an area where we're gonna have to do slab removal, soil removal, and put it all back that wasn't originally planned. Because that's the slab, that high density storage is heavy, you want a good base, solid level base for it. I think Mike touched on electrical roughing's been completed, so, or it's begun. You'll see some windows missing downstairs, we've taken those out to measure the existing openings, so we can get that window submittal going. And in, so we can get those windows under production in here on a timely manner. Unfortunately, again, in working with 100-year-old buildings, things get covered up. There was some hot being hazardous material, mastic, like a glue or goo, that was behind that window framing, so that has to be taken care of. Work in progress, like I said, slab and the soil removal. Upcoming work is to be importing those fill materials and providing new slabs. Right now on the table, to protect the slabs that we're not removing, we're going to be asking for a price to inject foam underneath the existing slab areas that are existing to remain, to sort of give a solid base there to prevent any further, hopefully sinking of that. And then we're gonna get into wall framing. So I would say, what, are you halfway through your phase one down there, or close, getting close to halfway done downstairs?
Sure.
Yeah. So once all the dirty work is done, and Oak Point meets with Charter Brothers once a week. We talk about critical issues, submittals and RFIs for non-construction people. Submittals are, hey, we're gonna use this product or this system, is it okay? And we sign off and say yes or no. You say no, you've missed this on it, revise it, or yes, it's good. We answer RFIs critically. RFIs are questions like, hey, we found this in here. What should we do about it? Your thing calls for green, we want it to be blue, is that okay? And so we work those up. And then every week we also talk, Charter Brothers Oak Points talks with, we have an AOC, which is the architects, owners, construction team meeting with Dovetail, which is the town, and us. So every day, every week, we're moving forward to try and make sure that this project is completed successfully. I don't know, another few minutes. Good.
And questions or anything? Right. I mean, we're basically at that point, so council, if you got, yeah, go for it.
I guess as it pertains to CR3 and whether that is in outside of Charter Brothers' contract, I guess we got to start broaching that question. To kick that off, I guess I would ask what the intention of what the intention of item or scope items that you would otherwise use the 5% design contingency for.
You're very, so. Just to refresh, so we were brought on, under contract on the 95% set. We are doing our best through the buyout process as we, make awards to trades, to have them incorporate the 100% set. So there was a 5% delta there in theory between when we were awarded and what we're being asked to build on the 100% set. Currently, there's in value, there's overages that are on our contingency log, that are a result of that last 5%. In other words, contractually, they could be owner changes. They weren't on the 95% set, they're on the 100% set. But we're attempting to absorb those with that contingency, so. Addendum 1 is just that, it's an addendum to the plans. So again, in contract parlance and in black and white, it's a change to the documents. Can the details of that be parsed such that maybe it's a valid allocation to design? I think that discussion can be had. I think the larger point that I made earlier was that Oak Point and us, we spent several weeks going back and forth trying to ascertain how much of this was valid, and I came to the conclusion that it needed to get in front of the town in one form or fashion. So it has been submitted as an owner change. That's sort of my narration of the situation.
I'm sorry, so what was the total cost on that again, that change?
143,000.
Roughly that, yeah. Yes.
So I guess this is a question about when when they're going through the process of getting the contract signed and when it was developed, was there any discussions about the fact that they weren't 100% drawings? And was the level of contingency included in the contract basically partly a result of the fact that they weren't 95% drawings? And the question for, I guess, both of you, but maybe Oak Point as well, is the changes, I've heard this, changes from 95 or in this addendum that were related to additional piping, was the 95 at the 95% level or even the 100% level that was prior to addendum 1, right? Did they represent a complete and functional system such that a bidding contractor, and if they didn't, should a bidding contractor have identified that prior to providing their price?
So, a couple questions there to unpack, but the calibration of the contingency was a very challenging aspect of this project. We had budget challenges we were trying to resolve as a team, and yes, we knew obviously there was a 95% set. So instinctually, we wanted to say let's include a little more contingency in there, but that really wasn't feasible with where we were at with the budget. We would prefer to have been at that stage with a 95% set of documents at 10% contingency. We lowered that as part of our strategy as a team to 9%. So kind of going in the wrong direction, but trying to balance all things that we had to accomplish. And subsequent to that, when we received 100% set drawings, our strategy was, okay, we still have some buying power here, we still have a competitive market-based bid situation. Let's try to leverage that into mitigating any impact to that last 5%. Addendum 1, as I saw it, was wholly separate. There are, again, reasonable minds can disagree. There are, lines on paper that may not be represented that are now more clearly identified. There were changes, and I'm going to defer to Oak Point on this, but there were actual changes where, for instance, piping was shown running above the vault that was rerouted to a different location. There were material changes in that addendum as well. I also want to say and give Paul Sicard credit in our analysis with Oak Point. I think we clearly identify things that can be insinuated by the mechanical drawings that they picked up And in truth, they don't have to. In a competitive bid situation, that yes, everybody wants to make sure we have a completely operational system, but they put themselves at a disadvantage if they carry things that aren't clearly shown when they're in a lump sum hard bid situation. So two things. One, they were in a tough situation. They were in a normal bid situation that they do every day, but also they did fill in some of the gaps.
And how exhaustive was how exhaustive was that back and forth prior to bringing them on as the contractor and the RFI process during bidding? If there's so much, I'm just trying to figure out, I gotta be honest, I haven't done an overlay or anything like Palmer and Thicard has done, and you guys have clearly validated intensely. If it's 10% that's missing, how is this not identified during pricing efforts? I guess I'm confused unless it's additional systems that were added in or otherwise not there to provide a complete functional system. It's what are we adding except for maybe connecting some lines that could have, in a diagrammatical design, could have reasonably been assumed to be there.
I'll probably fill in the gaps for that. So if it's a compilation of a lot of different things. So yes, to your point, during the bid process, I didn't receive any questions saying, hey, there's a piece of pipe that's not shown from this point, from point A to point B. So for example, we have fin tube radiation, and we have new fin tube radiation that was shown in drawings, and there's the existing branch piping. So the piece of pipe from the existing branch to the new fin tube was not shown. So in the addendum, that piece of pipe was shown. So the contractor, as part of the change order, saying, all right, this 5 feet here, 20 feet here, whatever, that's part of the change order that is shown. Now, there are other places where, for example, in plumbing drawings, I brought a cold water line to a bathroom, but the actual pipe from the bathroom group to the individual fixture was not shown. So they didn't carry anything beyond what was shown on paper. And there were some items that were clearly new scope, things like the vault.
Yeah.
There's
Sure.
existing piping that was over the vault, and I didn't realize the height of the ceiling, and then it ended up being a bond beam at the top of the wall. And you can't build a new bond beam where there's existing piping. And there's 4 pipes, there's 2 loops. There's 1 loop the 2 pipes that serve the first floor, 2 pipes that serve the second floor. So all 4 of those pipes needed to get moved, so that's a lot of piping. So that was additional scope that was not identified prior to that. So there are bits and pieces on both sides.
You provided a Rogers diagram in your drawings, right?
In
Yeah,
the addendum.
I thought I saw one in the 95s too.
It might have been partial.
So I guess to that extent, when pricing, to say, and this is my opinion, to say that, there's 20 feet of 3/4 inch copper that goes to the radiator from this loop and you didn't put it in there because it didn't show, but then on another sheet in the, 800 series or whatever it is, there's a riser diagram showing that into radiator connected to the loop. And I'm sure in at least our contract with Charter Brothers, I'm sure we have some verbiage about providing the system so it actually works versus just, providing what's on the paper. So there's certain considerations that are, essentially de minimis that I don't think should come up in a change order, and those being those final determinations as an example. So despite them not being distinctly shown on your plans, one could reasonably conclude that it's necessary for the system to operate.
It's a technicality, I guess you can.
That's why we
You
have
can argue.
that's why we have the notes sheets, right? Like
It wasn't consistent or across, I mean, some of the stuff they did capture. And it wasn't shown, so, you know, I think they missed a few things, and there were things that were added, so.
So I'd like to add that 2 Fridays ago, we unpacked this with the team after they'd had a couple of meetings on it, and I understood that Oak Point sent back comments on the Palmer and Sakar drawings. Trying to point out a lot of these things, you know, this should have been inferred, this was in the riser diagram, this was in the specs or whatever. Have we gotten a response back on that?
I received a response, late yesterday. I've been in discussions with the president, the mechanical plumbing subcontractor, and, you know, there was a lot to go through in that addendum, and, in terms of process, the project manager, enlisted some help of their estimating team, right? So they're estimators, love them, but they take off lines on paper, and so again, reasonable minds can look at these 2 sets of documents and disagree about what's added and what's not. It's very difficult to do. There's a lot there, and they provided a tremendous amount of backup. I encourage you to take a look at it if you haven't already. They highlighted all the plans showing what was there. But we're attempting to have a conversation with them about, look, you know, here's this group of 4 pipes that is now shown to be demolished. However, there was a note there prior that was, you know, we coordinate or otherwise relocate these pipes so they're not in conflict with something, X, Y, and Z. So there's these different types of changes like that where I'm just trying to reasonably go, I understand it's as an estimating exercise, it's black and white, but as a project management exercise, maybe there's some gray area here, and he agreed. In addition, we've been tossing around some ideas for things that we may not need, or from that addendum that we may want to suggest to the town that you defer. So all those things, a few of those things came back yesterday. Long story short, Palmer and Sakar is willing to discount this change. Somebody used the term thumb wrestling. I think it was Andy when we last met on this. We can thumb wrestle over the finer points of this detail and spend untold hours amongst the team, us, Sakar, everybody, or if Palmer and Sakar sees the wisdom of not spending all those man hours doing that, discount the change on some level to try to get this behind us. So we received that late yesterday. And I think that's just their preferences rather than thumb wrestling over every minutia that's in these plans is to try to get it behind us.
And that makes sense. And my intention is not to go through that exercise. It's more to try and validate why this showed up on the town's desk as a change order. And that would, I guess, be specifically the discussion between the town and Charter Brothers in consultation with their contract that we have with them. I don't know if that effort has been done on our side, or if you have anything besides the exhibit of the drawing for the exhibits, including the 95% and not this addendum, if there's any verbiage in there as it pertains to functionality and like just all the good stuff, you know, besides the drawings, which are one aspect of the whole. I think that's an exercise talking to the council that needs to be done on our side to ensure that, you know, there's nothing in there that we were promised prior to even considering the change itself.
Can I ask a follow-up, Mike, on that? So you said you heard back from Palmer and Sakar yesterday with kind of new information on the HVAC stuff, and am I hearing you correctly? There's like a willingness or maybe an appetite to reduce this $143,000 change down?
Yes.
Okay, do we have any idea what number, like how much at this point? And if you don't know at this point, that's fine. You can say so.
Yeah, I haven't reviewed what he sent over. It was
Okay.
late yesterday, but it's.
Okay. I just wanna come back to kind of take a step back. So I think the way that I think about this, and this is probably oversimplifying a lot, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I thought about how we have approached this project is the town decided we needed to do something about this building. We consulted with the public to say whether we're gonna renovate, build new, et cetera. Then we hired Oak Point to help us figure out what that design was going to look like. And the way I view it is like we hired Oak Point to kind of build the manual to execute on the project, right? And then Charter Brothers comes in to execute on the project. What I heard from Oak Point just now was a lot of like there were things not included, like, I don't know what not shown means. And so I'm hearing that as there were things that should have been in that manual for Charters Brothers that weren't in the manual. And so how, I would just love like us to have a conversation about that point, because we're coming at this from the interest of the town, obviously very motivated financially, but it's feeling like, and I don't know if anyone agrees with this, it's feeling like there's some stuff that should have been included at the 90, it feels like the difference between 95% and 100% is a lot more than I think we were expecting. Myself. And so I don't know if that helps kind of helps you understand like our situation. And I don't know if that's true, like is what I'm stating accurate, that there were things not included in the 95% from Oak Point that probably should have been. That's just like the blunt way to ask the question.
Yeah.
So I can start a little bit on how we originally put this budget back in 24. I think that's kind of the first piece that would be important to overview. That's a conceptual estimate that was in that initial package, and our team, based on what we were able to visually observe through the process, industry standards, a lot of historical data, and we put together the overall project budget with no designs. So there's a lot of assumptions that we make. There's a lot of kind of those initial pieces that are based on experience with similar building types. So some of those things that are showing up in the design documents now are just kind of the normal progression as you layer on additional details from a very, very rough floor plans, only elevations, and some thoughtful line item estimates. We do a lot of these, we have a great track record of them. Sometimes you have a system that doesn't come together the way you hoped. As we start to move into that construction documents phase, that's really when we start to layer in these different pieces, and then we bring on construction managers like Charters Brothers, and you start to get that really good technical constructability review, which has led to a really good dialogue, and I think a pretty complete package that we're gonna kind of start moving through. Some of the challenges that we had as designers toward the end is that having a budget, especially on a single trade that was consistently over budget, really slows our progress down. And we have this start date that we've got to hit. So yes, there were things that probably should have been in all of our documents at the 95% that we hadn't gotten to. And a lot of that's reflected in additional work that we're doing outside of the normal process to make sure that we're meeting those budget times. And then the other thing is also meeting all of the other startup components that are going into this project. So getting permit sets available, making sure that we have these other kind of out of sequence, long lead time process pieces like the state fire marshal and other steps like that. So yes, the answer is we would love to have been much further along at 95%, but we had focused on adjusting budget, answering any value engineering questions, thoughtful reviews from our trade partners in an effort to minimize any overall impact to the schedule while still maintaining as much as we can for that initial startup.
I guess, like at what point, obviously we're coming at this from a financial perspective. We have now already gone to the taxpayers asking for additional money, which I think is not something that none of us were overly thrilled to have to do. And it feels like, from just this one item, a significant change order has come through. And so I guess, just being honest, like my fear is that there will be more situations like this as the situation progresses. And how are we as a town going to navigate that when the bill keeps coming up and up? And it's hard for us when it feels like some of these changes were things that this group of people would never have, but it's not, we hired experts, to execute this project for us. And so just, I hope you'll understand that's a really difficult situation for us to be in now with these significant change requests coming in. And I'm going to be honest, like it is a little bit frustrating to hear that there were things that were not included. And I understand that, it's not perfect from the jump and it's evolving, it's an old building, but it is a challenge for us. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
What was the 85, I'm sorry, this is like not my specialty, but what was the 85% for? There was 85% drawings?
95.
Yeah. I thought I heard 85 put out there, which is what we're basing HVAC on, but, I guess, I do want to address the timing here too. As far as us being delay, the delays, and, I understand where you guys are coming from. I guess my question is, what does that mean for cost considerations? I think it's obviously an inconvenience for the town, but I mean, no offense, folks, but I, think we may need to learn to deal with it. And you are, but I guess I'm wondering about cost considerations with these delays, and if you see that as being a problem as we move forward.
It is certainly a challenge. Cost considerations include general conditions, cost to staff the project for 10 additional weeks, or it costs to mitigate overtime, extended days, acceleration costs. We do think we have at least an idea that we want to discuss with the town. It may mitigate, could have the potential to mitigate some or all of that. It really centers around trying to maintain our original date from which people would vacate the building, 2 and 3. So start phase 2 when we plan to start phase 2. That's easier for me to say, right? But that means finding another home for everybody on 2 and 3. We already had some of that planned for in the with some temporary offices. Maybe that temporary office situation evolves such that more people can get out of the building, and we simply run the end of phase 1 and the start of phase 2 concurrently. If we were to do that, again, by our original timeline, I think it was sometime early May, whereas right now the schedule on paper shows it in July because the logic is tied to finishing the ground floor. So that's probably one of our best opportunities to mitigate it at the moment.
So it sounds like regarding change order number 3, the 143,000, with the information we got back from Palmer and Card, we think that's gonna come in less. TBD on how much that is, and then some other efforts are being made to kind of shift the schedule around with the exploring the idea of bringing in trailers, because originally our plan was to keep people in the building, correct?
We were going to move, we didn't have a room on the first floor, even when finished, to house everybody in the building. So
Yeah.
it was a combination of moving people down to the first floor and moving folks out to temporary offices.
Okay.
Now, maybe more temporary offices, maybe offsite, I'm not sure. I guess very early discussions there, but it's clearly the best opportunity to mitigate is to get up here when we planned to get up here in May.
Okay, so there's some ideas to address the schedule delays, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And what was to answer Paul's question, what was the weekly cost of general conditions? Approximately?
18,000.
So, 1 week of delay should the delay be validated as an owner delay, it would be $18,000.
Right, and sorry, I just wanted to reiterate that. So the delays have to be documented with a change order, and so far we've only signed 1 change order, which was a $0 kind of moving scope change order. So to the extent that Charter Brothers feels that delays are due to things outside their control, like unforeseen conditions or delays caused by the design team or the owner team or whatever, they'll have to present those to amend the contract completion date, basically. So there will, I'm sure, be some discussions around what are valid sources for those delays. And then my position would be any Charter Brothers costs that are related to the project that are beyond that should not be owner's costs.
Yeah, I think one of the big ones that I heard at the beginning, and I've seen it, I think in some meeting minutes, was that the initial delay to mobilize. And I have a difficult time just straight off the bat understanding why that would be any bit of the owner's problem that we signed a contract with you. Did we tell you not to mobilize? Was there anything that we did except for our own decisions related to the special town meeting and the owner contingency, which is still independent of your own contract, which was signed at that point?
So as Andy notes, there's no change order up for discussion right now in that regard. We haven't put forth an opinion on that, and we're not prepared to here today. We're thinking about solutions and how to correct the problem.
It would, I understand that, and I totally agree. However, considering the burn rate, $18,000 a week, if we were to start considering a change order that, like you said, you have put in front of us, knowing that there was a guarantee that we wouldn't be experiencing a request for one related to schedule delay, would also help our evaluation process.
Was there a question?
No, it was a response to your saying that we're here today to discuss moving forward, and I'm saying moving forward, in your opinion, would be resolving CR3, correct?
Yes, I will add to that, that one of the things we've asked, to have developed is a construction change directive. It's a tool, as you probably know, whereby, the owner group acknowledges, hey, these are changes on paper that we know have to happen. We may not entirely agree on price at this very moment, but let's eliminate any ambiguity about whether or not they're going to happen. They must happen. Please proceed while we continue to negotiate that price. So I think getting a CCD, construction change directive for addendum 1, is one of the most important things that we need right now. In addition to that, ASI number 7, which is some under slab plumbing, I believe, we've requested CCDs for both of those. That would at least give us the time and space to continue to negotiate these, the numbers on the change order, while we give Palmer Sicard and others firm direction. Because right now, one of our mitigation strategies is to start the overhead of mechanical rough. And I can't tell them that yes, this is the piping schematic that you're being asked to do, start putting pipe in place, because I don't have that change directive at the moment.
Understood. I get that approach, and I think schedule at the beginning of this project and pushing schedule to get decisions. I understand schedule is important. Obviously, there's cost associated with it. I just would ask the council here to, when we're making our decisions, not be swayed too deeply by schedule pressure, and take our time in considering the content of the request and you know, what it means moving forward. On that, is there any opportunity, or is there any chance that Charter Brothers would absorb this entire change order request from Palmer and Sicard in their contingency?
I think I would prefer that we have time to consider that request rather than being put on the spot here. I think would be fair to us.
Of course, just from again, a schedule standpoint and looking there towards the completion of the project, it is an opportunity to maintain schedule, to utilize the contingency that's available to you and in your control.
Right, and that's why we suggested the CCD was to give folks the time and space to consider all options in that regard.
The CCD, where does that need to originate? Like, who needs to kickstart that process?
Oak Point originated it, passed it to us, we passed it to the town, said, would you, and in my email last week, I gave basically 2 options. Either approve this now and allow, like Michael said, the work to continue, like, we acknowledge that the work needs to be done.
Mhm.
Let's take off the time pressure of the cost negotiations. And at least Charter Brothers can say, yes, this pipe goes here, that pipe goes there. Or would you like to wait till after the Tuesday meeting? And the response back I got was, let's wait at least till after the Tuesday meeting and maybe longer. And then I do want to reiterate that all this slab stuff came up over the past couple of weeks. There's now a pending directive related to that, which we barely talked about. But that is even probably more critical path, because has to do with active work like today in the basement. So I would request that, I mean, from what I can tell, it's a structural thing. Garbage was found under the slab. We need that slab to be fixed. There are some relatively minor trade questions about exactly how to fix this area versus that area, but the structural engineers made a recommendation. I don't think anybody's going to second guess it. It's just now, as Michael's suggesting, if we could just give them a directive, at least they know what to do while they talk to the trade partners about what the costs are going to be. And is there any question that the slab work would come out of Charter Brothers contingency or not?
Again, haven't really fully considered it. We just are dealing with this issue and the design that came back and trying to get pieces in place to do that.
Yeah. So I guess I will point out that any unused contingency or costs in the Charter Brothers contract, not just contingency stuff, but there are a whole bunch of allowances pertaining to things that we're not quite sure about yet. Or just scope that we cut, like landscaping or whatever. All of that comes back to the town 100%, so they just never draw for that money and it stays in the bank, right? But and so from that perspective, I think it's a true statement to say that whether a certain change order comes out of Charter Brothers contingency or the other 750,000, it's the town's money at the end of the day. It's just is it the left pocket or the right pocket? That's the way I see this, the situation. Unless someone sees it differently.
I mean, I think from the town's perspective, like, we're obviously aiming to remain under the number that we've had approved this far, and so I think as long as, of course, there's like little things to work out as to which bucket, but I think from the town perspective, at the end of the day, as long as we're coming in under or at whatever total amount, whether it pulls from Charter Brother contingency or owner's contingency, to your point, like, it's more a matter of like, if we're summing together both of those contingency buckets and we're talking about all these change orders, how quickly are we eating up all of that and then quickly approaching a budget beyond what was already approved?
Well, I would add to that too, is that, from my standpoint anyways, I think people would like to see the $7.351 million amount be the final amount, not the 750 that we promised them we would take care when dipping into.
Agreed, that's a fair point. I think that from the town's perspective, like, the additional 750,000 is kind of like our last bucket to dip into, if possible. Because that's something above and beyond what was originally approved, and we did commit to the taxpayers that we would only draw as much of that 750,000 as absolutely needed. So thank you, Sam. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, thank you.
Can you hear me right? Just like to reiterate that time is not our friend, and the longer we, delay decisions, the greater chance it will extend the duration and incur additional costs. So, we have as a construction manager at risk, we have a construction manager contingency, and if I understand it right, the owner has an owner contingency. And technically, for items like, these things that we've discussed, especially, the under slab issues, unforeseen, right? I understand that you would like for us to take that from the construction management contingency, which is ultimately the town's money in the end, but we are the CM at risk here. If we deplete that, what guarantees do we have that the town will support us if we have additional overages or a request for an extension of time? We've built a lot of trust here over the months. Feels a little shaky right now, to be honest. I think we're really working very hard on our end to mitigate these. We have a plan in place that we have kind of alluded to. Nobody's really jumping up and down and saying, yeah, let's do it. It's like, let's wait and see and talk about it. And that you're adding, a lot of risk there and the potential for additional costs. And so I just want to point out that we have, two different contingencies, really. We have the construction management contingency and the owner contingency. And so many of these changes should be funded from an owner contingency. Will we work with the town? Absolutely. If we feel like the town will support us and they have our backs as well as we have yours, we feel comfortable, we can talk. But right now, I don't feel that comfortable with where we're at. I want to feel comfortable like I did a month and a half ago, but right now I feel uneasy about it. So we have a long ways to go. So as Mike said, our plan was, let's call it a recovery schedule would be to tackle 2 and 3, right? There's risk up here. There's risk above the ceiling here, structural risks, right?
will we be asked to absorb those as well? I mean, is that truly fair to do? Would we have a long ways to go here? You know, the construction management contingency is meant for certain things, you know, if we have, for instance, if we go out to bid and we get 4 bids and we have a low bidder and all of a sudden, and they're on budget, and then they say, we're gonna pull out because we just landed a big job and we can't service it. And then we have to buy up to another subcontractor. That's what that contingency is for, right? If we counted, if we did takeoffs on all the walls and accidentally we carried studs at 2 feet on center instead of 16, that funds that. I mean, we are not perfect. This is construction. It's not a perfect thing. So you can start to see what that contingency is for. I mean, it's just like if you were to do a remodel or addition on your house, you know, you would understand there would be things that you can't always account for. And that's what that contingency is for. I would say that these items, and I know the 100-something thousand's a big number, right off the bat, plumbing and mechanical, probably our largest subcontract on this job, right? So once that's behind us, if these drawings are truly 100% complete, and we're gonna find things, there will be issues, that risk is off the table, right? As we get further along in this project, we'll become more comfortable and be able to say, yes, we can reduce our contingency, but we're not there yet. We just started the first floor and we just got into it. In 6 months or less, we'll hopefully be able to say, look, you know, we've done right by you folks, and we've got buyout on subcontracts, and things have gone hopefully better than we thought. And, you know, yes, we're comfortable reducing our contingency, but right off the bat, you know, I understand how you guys feel too, but also understand how we feel as well, you know, that we both share a risk here, both the town and us as contractors, and I hope that you all can see that, you know, we've really tried to do right by the town from when we first were awarded this project, and we're honored to be part of it. We want to help solve it and get you guys in here. So I just want to say that there's a distinction between the two contingencies, but it's all the town's money in the end, and we understand that.
Thank you. I do want to say is that I'm sorry that you feel that there's been a degradation of trust. To your point, you understand where we are here, and we're looking out the best interests of our town. That being said, you did allude to the HVAC and plumbing being the largest contract and the most risky, and that's exactly here what we're talking about. So to expect it to be the largest sort of unknown, or as you know, you just mentioned the 2x4 wall being 16 versus 24 on center, and earlier I brought up the fact that the 95% drawings, did we actually see a change in the concept of the design or the systems themselves, or was it just at 16 versus 24 inches? You know what I mean? So I don't think it's off base to sort of suggest that it's the potential to use your construction contingency to address the addendum. I know that the addendum's on your contract, but it seems as though the intention, the design's intent was in your contract. And I mean, to be frank, I'm just being frank here. I hope you don't feel like there's any, you know, lack of trust here. It's just a frank conversation about opinions here on how it's used. I feel like you just gave a couple examples of when you use it, and this sort of aligns with that.
Well, I mean, with a wall, you would go to a wall type, and the wall type would tell you how the wall is to be framed. So they're not really apples and apples, right? So our estimators went to a wall type A said 2x4 16 on center, and we made an error in our takeoff. That's what that's for. So they're not really the same. If you don't show it on a plan at all, you know, that it's a little different, in my opinion. I'm making the correlation to, you know, if I was doing a wall type takeoff. So
I guess,
Sorry, I wanna,
but I just my final comment. I think, you know, I'd be very sorry if we were losing trust. I mean, I think we're all just interested to make sure we get this project done within the budget that we have. You know, but I do think, you know, I think this was from Dovetail, this memo from, and, you know, and understand that we're trying to respond to a bunch of people. This was a hard sell to the public. And there's a statement here, Palmer and Sicard reviewed and submitted bids based on drawings that were labeled 100%, but in their opinion, were at 80 to 85% completion. So I think you need to just understand where we're coming from too, that we need to justify that cost and whether we're ready to absorb that cost. And I'm not sure we are, we need to have that discussion. But I think the fact that, you know, there were 85% drawings, and this is Sam's specialty, not mine. And we hired a bunch of experts to provide us, you know, the expert advice. I think I'm struggling with that, so anyway.
If I may, I have just a couple of reactions to some things I'm hearing. So, Brad brought up a couple examples of what they might feel comfortable using their contingency for. I think, unless someone has different information, that the contract doesn't really define what the contingency is to be used for. There are two line items labeled in the schedule of values. One's called design estimating contingency, and one's called construction contingency. And I don't think those are defined in the contract. So, Brad can bring up some examples. We could probably bring up counter examples. I think that those have to be negotiated. It's the position we're in. Unless, Michael, are you aware that the contract defines the specifics that Charter Brothers is able to use the contingency, other than those two descriptions on the SOB?
I don't believe it does. I think it just says, you know, the GMP is made up of these things. One of them is the construction manager's contingency. So it doesn't go any further than that.
Right, it does not, for example, spell out the situation we're in right now, where we've got maybe a disagreement as to where this cost is gonna lie. I lost my train of thought on the second point. Maybe they'll come to me in a second for this.
I do wanna make sure, and I hear what everyone is saying about, schedule delays, and that us kind of waffling on this decision about where the funds are gonna come from is delaying us, right? So I wanna make sure that the owner team and the town council really clearly understands from you all, what decisions are you needing from us in the near term that are these ones that could create these delays, so we're really clear on what you would need from us.
So, a couple things. I think what I mentioned earlier, which was Palmer and Sicard's willingness to discount this, I think is outside of the discussion about owner contingency versus construction contingency. I think that's an acknowledgement by them that there is some gray area here, and that's them taking ownership of it, regardless of the rest of this. I think what Oak, I won't say the words in the mouth, but there was legitimate changes through addendum 1 that are part of this. So I don't think it's a black and white issue, but I think that with those two things said, we can retract and resubmit a revised version of this CR3 for everybody's consideration. And I guess I would just ask the team to look at that in that context and see if we can move forward. But again, the construction change directive solves the schedule pressure today, as long as we acknowledge that this is what we're doing. And there are a couple of exceptions to that. Again, Rick, I don't want to speak for you, but we've discussed the chemical feed system. You know, maybe $3,500 if we defer that work, put a couple valves in, and it can always be added in later. I think Oak Point would have something to say about whether that's wise from a maintenance standpoint. But there's a couple of things that are in play that we can bring to the table and say, look, defer this, don't do this. Here's a reduction here, and move on, and get that CCD. Give the folks in the field clear direction. This is what we're doing.
So, I think we should just meet. You guys can obviously, it's public, you can sit in the audience, but I think we should just have a discussion afterwards about the CCD.
Yeah.
That's 2, that's 1 and 2.
So for CR,
Two is the slab work.
Correct. So addendum,
Addendum number 1 and ASI 7.
Okay, ASI 7 is the slab work and addendum 1 is HVAC.
And I don't think we've actually officially forwarded the second directive to you, but I can do it now.
And I do just wanna make sure we're really clear, are there any other like looming decision points that are creating like significant schedule delays at this point?
Well, in terms of the mitigation effort, whether we think we can move folks out of the building at the same timeline that was in the baseline, that's huge.
Yeah, is that something that we need to discuss now, or is that something for the Thursday meeting?
No, I think, we've got some early plans we can shake out. What would another trailer mean? Can we get that into the parking lot logistically, or do you folks have other areas? We continue those discussions.
Okay.
We don't need to make a decision on that right now.
Okay. Yeah, your question.
Yeah, no, I kind of wanted to clarify what you were kind of bringing up. So moving forward, after we like go through these things today, it seems like, are we failing in our communication in getting you guys effective answers fast enough?
I think it would be an advantage to have somebody from the town in the meetings with us in Dovetail and in Oak Point. I think that would
For the Thursday.
improve communications. Yeah, for the Thursday meeting. And I understand, why you both brought Dovetail on Oak Point, as an OPM, and that, you guys are running a town, you don't need to run a construction project. I get it, but I think for the purpose of communication, it would be a good idea to have somebody from the town in that meeting.
I will add to that, though, that, sorry, but, our directive has been that we're not authorized to approve any check orders until it goes through this body, which meets on a certain schedule, and so having someone in our Thursday meetings is fine. Of course, anybody's welcome to any meeting, but it's the decision loop that we're in right now.
Well, I think, that's a good point that I wanted to bring up, is like, what is working today, what is not working today? It sounds like this lag time perhaps of getting a response from us is maybe a challenge. But I also think we are all here together in the room right now. I don't think this is gonna happen probably much more in the future. And like you alluded to, some breakage of trust, like what other issues, working relationship issues do we need to address? If any.
And one point to add is, well, if things do come up and you need us to vote on them, we can do special meetings. If we can bring those up so we're not sitting and we're adding $18,000 each week.
I think this is first sort of
just moving forward.
big one, yeah. I think, like, do you know, how much is the, or we don't have a price on CCD two? No, okay. So I mean, I guess as long as we are reviewing the CCDs as they come to us and understand estimated cost implications, at least would be helpful. Obviously, we need to do the work, so.
Yeah, and just to add to what Andy was saying, it's been our directive to obtain the information, refine it, present it to the council and to the owners. So I guess my question would be to work more efficiently. Mike, if you could elaborate on communication and how you think we need to communicate better, tell us a little bit more about that.
I just think that having somebody from the town in real time, it can only add fluidity to communication.
Okay. And so would that speed up the decision process at that point?
I don't think so.
I mean, we kind of, just the background, like we started with the owner group, Sam, myself, and Tim and Jen would join the Thursday meetings with you guys, and then we hired Dovetail as kind of an effort for us to be able to step away a little bit. So then we set up this other meeting, and so I'm to be honest, like it kind of begs the question of like, do we just need to have just one meeting again instead of having these multiple meetings? Because I'm gonna be honest, like attending multiple meetings during the week, we all have full-time jobs.
When was the change request sent to the town? The 3, like officially?
Well, it first came to our attention a few weeks ago when it appeared in the agenda for that one meeting, but
Right, yeah.
y'all are copied on anyway, so you knew about it the same day we did. And then I'd say there's 2 weeks of back and forth on our end of let's call it sausage making. As we try to understand what's going on, we're quizzing Oak Point about what's in the specs or whatever. We're trying to get it. Palmer, Sicario, you know, so. We got the directive last week and forwarded it
So,
that day.
so 1 week, that's not too bad. I mean, if it was like needed faster, like we totally act to make it happen. Like, I think, I'm speaking for, not speaking for everyone here, but like, if it was like, hey, you know, we need this tomorrow.
We've made no assertion that the CCD one or addendum one is delaying the project. I'm simply talking in general terms about project communication. But I'm saying the CCD is relevant now because part of our expediting approach, part of our mitigation approach is to start getting pipe in the air now. And I need to know where that pipe goes in order to direct them to do that. So that's a more recent development as we understand a mitigation approach.
So that's like an example of where it's kind of to our advantage to move forward with the CCD process so that everyone can, the work can continue while we hash out the cost aspects. Because otherwise, if we sit on this for a while, then we're talking about $18,000 a week, whatever, it delays it.
Right. And it's specific to ASI 7 and it's CCD number 2. We just got slabs downstairs today, guys, this morning, and we don't have that direction officially. We're trying to be team players here and move the project forward. But by rights, we could just say, oh, stop until, you know, pricing is approved or we get a construction change directive. It's not how we operate. We also need some leverage over the trades to go, hey guys, go. Like this is how we're moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and construction change directives aren't something that we recommend often. They're really these unique situations where time is of the essence, the scope is defined, and I think the team has vetted it very, very rigorously. It kind of goes to your question on how this process works. So, you know, we want to make sure that, you know, when we bring in these forwards, they're for legitimate terms. We're not going to bring them forward all the time. You know, this team is working great together communicatively and in the best interest of the project. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of those.
Perfect, so it's the bottom one.
I don't know if it's the last one, but it's not gonna be something that's done all the time. We would, as speaker for Oak Point, we much prefer to define the scope, get a price, make a recommendation via whatever mechanism you need to get approval.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we can't take any formal votes. I mean, I don't feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've had any issue with the slab issue, right? I mean, I know we would need to vote on that at a formal meeting.
Sort of needs to get done.
Yeah, and I don't see that as something that we have, you know, debated whether that should have been, you know, it was an issue that arose, you know, rather than maybe should have been seen prior, but anyway.
Yeah. So if I'm hearing this correctly, the town after this meeting, will chat quickly about CCD process for number 2. So trying to keep this all organized. You're looking for us to implement a CCD process for change order number two.
So, okay. CCD 1 has to do with the mechanical HVAC plumbing work related to change request 3. That is not super time critical right this second.
Well, it is in the sense that we need to start roughing over it.
Okay.
So it's becoming.
Yes, but also with that,
but-
like you received information today. I don't know,
Okay.
or last night,
You received
the message about what they were going to.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
updated pricing for that, yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
but you haven't had a chance to review, which is fine.
But yeah, CCD process outside parallel to
Yeah.
the pricing.
So our next, we have a meeting next Tuesday.
and then CCD 2 would have to do with the underslab repairs.
Okay.
So both are time critical. I think CCD 2 is the less controversial one, let's put it that way.
Okay.
So we do have a meeting next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's a workshop, but is it possible to?
Oh, no, I was talking about council is.
Yeah,
I mean, if we needed to formally vote on
something.
something.
Yeah.
Schedule a regularly scheduled meeting and then do the workshop.
We could schedule a special meeting. Just about any time. To Joel's earlier point, we can gather sooner. if we need to.
Yeah.
Okay, what else does to the earlier point about, is there any other kinks that need to be worked out here? Any other challenges that anyone's facing? Again, this is an opportunity for us to all be together and hopefully set forth on a path that keeps us as close to schedule as we possibly can, and, anything else anyone needs to bring up.
Is the goo a concern? I mean, I'm told with a lot of hazardous waste stations in my day. And I mean, and they can be. I mean, all of a sudden it's PCBs and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I'm not sure if that rises to any level of concern that you guys have.
It's not the top concern right now. We had a path forward for both the demo sub and the framer to extract the old windows. We purchased it in the base contract of the demo sub, who is qualified to do the abatement. And if I had my way, I was hoping that we could do it with a framer because they're gonna be installing the windows. I was hoping they were gonna extract the window, put the new window in. What it amounts to now is we've had to have it develop an asbestos work plan, which has been developed and is gonna be submitted to the state for approval. We have a 5-day waiting period on that, and then we're gonna start extracting windows. It's not a big deal. Thanks.
I have one last question. What was DR 18 relating to the oil placement? Was that for the stairwell or is that for related to this new stuff?
I mean, look. That was. Sorry.
Eighteen?
18, my computer just froze up, of course. It said like soil placement, excavation, it was like $9,000.
Right, so basis of the GMP was assuming that the material under the slab was suitable. Clearly is not. So we have removal if it's unsuitable in the base contract of the demo sub. We don't have imported placement. So DPW is providing soils and leaf, and then we just need somebody to import them into the trench and compact them.
And that scope expands with this ASI 7.
Yeah.
Okay, and then would there be
We can
a
probably,
reconciliation of those two?
we could probably void that one and just deal with it.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, CCD.
Yeah.
Okay, so just gonna recap, make sure we have everything focused. So we're gonna have a discussion at the council for next Tuesday, the 7th, to discuss the 2 contingency options that you, or addendums, whatever words you use, moving forward right now. That's what you guys need from us in this current moment. And then you also mentioned, Mike, that you have a strategy that you guys have come up with for the different phases. Do you want to present that at a meeting? Do you want to send us like a presentation? What's doable for you guys?
So I also just wanna, like, are we talking about the whole council, or are we talking about like the owner group? Cause I thought we were talking about like the owner group.
Owner group's good. I just want to make sure, like, the idea sounded great. I just want to make sure we keep moving.
Like, I think the process that we've kind of laid out, and I think that's still open for debate, but is that, you know, all of these changes, suggestions or whatever, that the Sam, myself, Tim and Jen are kind of more in the loop on those, and then are saying kind of to the council, hey, we recommend this, we don't recommend this, and then the council votes on those specific bigger changes. Okay.
I would appreciate the opportunity for our team to work with Tim and his team to work through the finer points of that plan. It's largely impacts everybody that works in this building, and myself, Tim, Josh, our superintendent, work out the details of that and present something in our regular Thursday meeting, and they'll get to get to wherever they need to, or we can present if need be.
What's the opportunity to, cause I read your email with the schedule, where it sort of lays that out, it was like 6-8 to 7-9, I think were the days or something like that. Is there opportunity to expand that, recovery effort?
Yes, I'd like to actually.
So if it was like 6 weeks, that they moved out 6 weeks early?
Every week we could move out earlier, so we picked up, and if we could even go back to our May timeframe, showing the baseline schedule, just means working phase 1, phase 2 in parallel.
And the same goes for those temp trailers then. Right now, I know we already moved those up, I think, a month, but if we move them up a month, it's 1 month, 4 weeks from now at this point, but
yeah,
the earlier we got them here, the faster you get them set up.
For sure.
Alright,
Yep.
okay.
All right, I think to summarize kind of everything we've discussed, we've hashed out the CCD stuff thoroughly. But in addition to that, it sounds like there's some more information that we'll learn regarding CR3 as a result of the stuff you guys got from PNS. And it sounds like there's some really concerted efforts to bring that overage down. Also, in addition to all of the schedule rework that you're talking about, bringing in trailers and trying to keep us on track with the phasing of the building. Those are two, I think, significant efforts being made to manage the budget at the moment. Is that fair? Okay. Last chance. Does anyone have anything else they need to bring up or discuss? Anything you need from us? I just want to say, I think, again, because we're all together, I just hope that with this group, like as we move forward, I don't know how much longer do we have left planned in this project, probably at least a year, right? Where we'll be in touch. And so just encourage all of us to like raise the red flag if something is not working, if you're not getting what you need, if communication isn't working, like it is in our best interest to address that as quickly as possible to keep things moving. We don't want like people issues preventing this from moving forward. So please like, keep us in the loop if that comes up. Thank you. So yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So, if you have somebody from the town at the meeting, I think that'll help with that.
Okay.
Right, and, you know, like I said, time's not our friend now, you know, later, we may have, you know, more time on our hands, but right now we just have to, you know, solve issues quickly and keep traction, you know, we started to get some traction here. We felt good about our last meeting and we were starting to click.
Okay.
And so we feel good about that. We just need to foster that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Last chance, anyone? All right. Thank you all for being here today. If we can wrap up the workshop in an hour and a half. Thank you.